Breaking news. We have obtained what is expected to be a central piece of the government's case against Donald Trump. The actual audio recording of the former president talking as if he's showing a highly classified document on U.S. war plans against Iran with people not cleared to even know it exists, let alone what's in it. In a moment, only on CNN, you will hear what jurors will hear one day. The recording was made 2 summers ago, July 2021, at the former president's club in Bedminster, New Jersey. You will clearly hear the former president as he is speaking to several people. According to the special counsel's indictment, they include a writer working on Mark Meadows' memoir, the publisher, and 2 of Trump's staff members. The president was aware he was being recorded. This is the first time it is being played.
Okay, so something absolutely massive just happened in federal court, and the fallout from this is going to be nuclear. We're talking about a special counsel presentation that was so devastating, so thoroughly documented, so legally airtight, that it left a federal judge visibly stunned in the courtroom. This wasn't some routine hearing where lawyers trade arguments and everyone goes home. This was a systematic takedown, a methodical destruction of Donald Trump's entire legal defense strategy, backed by evidence that legal experts are already calling some of the most damaging material they've ever seen presented against a former president. And the judge's reaction, the fact that even a seasoned federal jurist who's supposed to maintain total composure, I was left speechless by what they heard, that tells you everything you need to know about how serious this is. We're not talking about political theater here. We're not talking about partisan allegations or media speculation. We're talking about hard evidence, documented communications, witness testimony, and legal violations that could fundamentally reshape Trump's legal jeopardy and his political future. This is a full-blown crisis for Trump's legal team, for his political operation, and for everyone in the Republican Party who's tied their fate to his. Now, before we break down exactly what evidence the special counsel presented and why it's so devastating, let me just be completely honest with you about something. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. They'll give you the headline, they'll show you a clip of the courthouse, but they won't walk you through the actual legal implications, the documentary evidence, the witness statements, or what this means for the other cases Trump is facing. And that's why we built this channel, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines and understand what's actually happening in these courtrooms, in these legal battles, and in the corridors of power, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now. We bring the news straight to you every single day. Just hit the subscribe button below to join us. And if you want to support this work and be part of a community that truly cares about the truth, this is your moment. Subscribe and drop a comment below with your reaction to what's happening. All right, let's get back to the video. Here's what happened. The special counsel's office requested a hearing before a federal judge to present new evidence that had recently come to light through ongoing investigations, witness cooperation, and document analysis. Now, Trump's legal team tried to fight this hearing, tried to delay it, tried to keep this evidence from being presented in open court, but the judge ruled that the hearing would proceed, and when it did, when the special counsel stood up and began laying out their case, what unfolded was absolutely brutal. We're talking about a presentation that lasted several hours that included contemporaneous communications, meaning emails and text messages, and recorded phone calls from the time the alleged illegal activity was happening. We're talking about testimony from multiple witnesses, including people who were in the room with Trump, people who heard him give direct orders, people who raised concerns about the legality of what was being discussed and were overruled or ignored. We're talking about financial records that directly contradict statements Trump made under oath. We're talking about documents that show a clear pattern of obstruction, of attempts to hide evidence, of efforts to intimidate witnesses and interfere with the investigation. And the special counsel didn't just dump this evidence on the court and walk away. They connected the dots. They showed the judge exactly how each piece of evidence fit together, how the communications proved intent, how the witness testimony corroborated the documents, how the financial records exposed the lies. They built a timeline that was so detailed, so thoroughly documented, that by the time they were finished, Trump's lawyers were sitting there with nothing to say. And the judge, who, again, is supposed to be this neutral, composed figure, who's heard thousands of cases and seen every kind of legal argument imaginable, was visibly shaken. Multiple reporters in the courtroom noted that the judge asked for a recess after the presentation, that when they came back, the judge made comments from the bench about the seriousness of the allegations, about the strength of the evidence, and about the grave implications for the rule of law. That's not normal. Judges don't do that unless something truly extraordinary just happened in their courtroom. Now, here's the problem, and this is where things get really dangerous for Trump. This wasn't just evidence being presented for show. This was evidence being presented as part of a legal proceeding that has real consequences. The judge has to make rulings based on what they just heard. They have to decide whether certain evidence is admissible at trial, whether certain witnesses are credible, whether the special counsel has established probable cause for the charges they're pursuing. And if the judge's reaction is any indication, if they were genuinely left speechless by the strength of what they just saw, that suggests they're going to rule in the special counsel's favor on key motions. That means evidence that Trump's team wanted excluded is probably going to be allowed. That means witnesses Trump's team wanted to discredit are probably going to be deemed credible. That means the legal strategies Trump's lawyers have been using to delay and obstruct and minimize this case are probably going to fail. And once that happens, once this evidence is officially part of the court record and blessed by a federal judge as legitimate and admissible, it becomes infinitely harder for Trump to fight this case. And it gets worse because this evidence doesn't just impact this one case. The special counsel is coordinating with other prosecutors, other investigators, other jurisdictions that are looking at Trump's conduct. And when evidence this strong gets presented in federal court, when it gets validated by a judge, when it becomes part of the public record, other prosecutors can use it. They can reference it in their own cases. They can call the same witnesses. They can subpoena the same documents. This is what lawyers call a cascade effect, where one major evidentiary breakthrough in one case starts collapsing Trump's defenses in multiple other cases all at once. And that's exactly what's starting to happen right now. Prosecutors in other jurisdictions are already signaling that they're going to request access to the evidence that was just presented, that they're going to seek to introduce it in their own proceedings, that they believe it's directly relevant to the charges they're pursuing. And Trump's legal team knows this. They know that what just happened in that courtroom isn't just bad for this one case, it's potentially catastrophic for Trump's entire legal situation. Okay, let's break down what this actually means and why the implications are so much bigger than just one court hearing. First, understand that special counsels don't present evidence like this unless they're absolutely certain it's going to hold up under scrutiny. These are experienced federal prosecutors who know that if they overreach, if they present evidence that turns out to be flimsy or circumstantial or easily discredited, it damages their entire case and gives Trump's lawyers ammunition to attack their credibility. So when a special counsel stands up in federal court and presents evidence that leaves a judge speechless, you can be absolutely certain that they've vetted every document, verified every witness statement, confirmed every detail. They wouldn't risk their reputation and their case on anything less. And that means the evidence we're talking about here is rock solid. It's not allegations, it's not speculation, it's documented, corroborated, legally admissible proof of wrongdoing. Second, the fact that this evidence includes contemporaneous communications is absolutely devastating for Trump. When prosecutors have emails, text messages, recorded phone calls from the time the alleged illegal activity was happening, that's infinitely more powerful than witness testimony alone. Because Trump's usual defense strategy is to attack the credibility of witnesses, to claim they're lying, to suggest they have political motivations or faulty memories, but you can't attack an email that Trump himself sent. You can't claim a recorded phone conversation where Trump is giving direct orders is fabricated. You can't argue that financial records showing exactly where money went and when are somehow biased against you. This is hard documentary evidence, and it's the kind of evidence that wins cases. Legal experts who've been following these proceedings are already saying that if the special counsel has the kind of contemporaneous communications they presented in court, Trump's chances of beating these charges just drop dramatically. Third, the witness testimony that was referenced in this hearing is apparently coming from people who were inside Trump's inner circle, people who were in the room when decisions were made, when orders were given, when concerns about legality were raised and dismissed. And that's a nightmare for Trump because these aren't random observers or political opponents. These are people who worked for him, who were loyal to him, who had every incentive to protect him, but who are now cooperating with prosecutors because they don't want to go to prison for crimes Trump directed them to commit. And when you have multiple witnesses all telling the same story, all corroborating the same timeline, all confirming what the documentary evidence shows, that creates an overwhelming case that's almost impossible to defend against. Trump's lawyers are going to try to paint these witnesses as traitors or liars or people with axes to grind, but when their testimony matches the emails, matches the text messages, matches the financial records, that strategy falls apart. Fourth, this development is going to have massive political implications heading into 2026 and beyond. Trump is trying to maintain his grip on the Republican Party, trying to position himself as strong and invincible, trying to claim that all these prosecutions are witch hunts and political persecution. But when a federal judge is left speechless by the strength of the evidence against him, when a special counsel presents documentation that's so damaging that even seasoned legal observers are stunned, that narrative starts to crack. Vulnerable Republicans in swing districts are going to have a much harder time defending Trump when the evidence against him is this concrete and this serious. Donors who have been backing Trump-endorsed candidates are going to start asking whether they want to tie their fortunes to someone who's facing this level of legal jeopardy, and voters, particularly independent voters and suburban voters who are persuadable, are going to look at this evidence and have to confront the reality that maybe these aren't baseless political attacks. Maybe there's actually serious criminal conduct here. Fifth, this is going to fundamentally change the dynamics of Trump's legal strategy. Up until now, Trump's approach has been delay, delay, delay. Fight every motion, appeal every ruling, drag out every proceeding, hope that something changes politically or that prosecutors get tired or that public attention moves on. But when evidence this strong gets presented in court, when judges start ruling against you because the proof is overwhelming, that strategy stops working. You can't delay forever when prosecutors have you dead to rights on documentary evidence. You can't win on appeal when the trial court's rulings are based on hard facts and credible witnesses, and you can't count on political pressure to make this go away when federal judges are seeing evidence that genuinely shocks them. So Trump's legal team is going to have to make some very difficult decisions in the coming weeks. Do they keep fighting, knowing they're probably going to lose? Do they try to negotiate some kind of plea deal to minimize the damage? Do they attempt to change the narrative publicly, even though the evidence contradicts everything they've been saying? None of these options are good, and all of them involve acknowledging a level of legal jeopardy that Trump has been denying exists. Sixth, the timing of this couldn't be worse for Trump politically. We're heading into a critical period where Trump is trying to consolidate power, trying to intimidate opponents, trying to use his political influence to shape legal outcomes and protect himself from accountability. But when federal courts are seeing evidence this damaging, when judges are reacting with visible shock at the scope of the alleged criminal conduct that makes it infinitely harder for Trump to claim he's being unfairly targeted, it becomes much more difficult for Republican leaders to defend him when the evidence is this concrete. It becomes much more challenging for Trump to maintain his aura of invincibility when prosecutors are systematically dismantling his defenses in open court. And it raises the very real possibility that Trump could face serious legal consequences, potentially including conviction and incarceration, at exactly the moment when he's trying to cement his control over American politics for the long term. So here's the bottom line. What happened in federal court with the special counsel, presenting devastating evidence that left a judge speechless, isn't just another chapter in Trump's long legal saga. This is a potential turning point, a moment where the sheer weight and strength of the evidence becomes impossible to ignore or spin away. We're talking about contemporaneous communications, multiple cooperating witnesses, financial records, and documented patterns of obstruction and illegal conduct, all presented in a methodical, devastating fashion that even shocked a federal judge who's seen it all. And the implications of this are massive, not just for this one case, but for all of Trump's legal battles, for his political future, for the Republican Party's ability to defend him, and for the broader question of whether anyone, even a former president, is truly above the law. Trump's legal team is in full panic mode right now, trying to figure out how to respond to evidence they probably didn't expect prosecutors to have, trying to come up with new strategies when their old ones are collapsing, trying to control a narrative that's rapidly slipping away from them. And meanwhile, other prosecutors are watching this, taking notes, preparing to use this same evidence in their own cases, building what could become an unstoppable legal juggernaut that Trump has no way to escape. Keep your eyes on this case. Watch for the judge's formal rulings in the coming days. Pay attention to how Trump's legal team responds and whether they start changing their strategy. And understand that what we're witnessing right now could be the beginning of the end of Trump's ability to avoid accountability through delay and political pressure. This story is far from over, and the next few weeks